Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to season 2 finale of a Local Podcast 831. I'm excited because I have Daniel Esqueda joining me today. Welcome, Daniel.
Thank you, Eddie.
For those who don't know, Daniel, you are a student school board trustee.
Yeah, student trustee.
And that's a big title.
Yeah.
That's a big thing.
Yeah.
What is a school board student trustee?
A school board student trustee is I get that question a lot, and I always think of like a way to perfectly, phrase it. But I guess you're the most powerful student within your school district because you're the one voice advocating for all the students across all the different school sites within your school district. And all the pressure is dependent upon you because you're the one who, as the board is making these decisions and, things that impact your education, you're, sharing the perspective for all students. You're that one voice. So I would, that's what the student trustee is, that one student who sits on the board and, provides all the valuable insight to the board as to what's occurring at every school site, what issues need to be addressed within our school district. And, I think truly just representing the student perspective on that board because a lot of the members who are on there, they're not in the schools on a daily basis. So, or it's been a while since they've been in the educational system. So they're not really familiar with what's going on. So I think, that's why having that student perspective on the board is really valuable.
Yeah. And I mean, how many students are in the district roughly?
I think right now we're at over 14,000.
14,000.
Yeah, 14,000.
And out of 14,000 students,
Yeah.
you are the one
I'm the
that
one, yeah.
is the voice for all of them.
Yeah, it's a very, very impactful role, but also a big responsibility because, I know, for example, at Santa Cruz City Schools, they have, for their school district, they have 3 student trustees, one from each comprehensive high school. And they have 3. So there, you're one of 3, but in PVUSD, you're one of 1.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes this role even more special because you're that one voice, like, we just said, that's representing all the 14,000. So,
That's kind of nervous.
Yeah.
To feel that I represent the entire school. I mean, from K to 12.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah. And I want to get into that, right? Yeah. But before we get into what made you join and your journey and being on that board, I want to get to know Daniel.
Yeah.
Right? For those who don't know, I've known you since you were a kid.
Yeah.
We go back to 2018 Camp Wow.
Yeah.
And in Camp Wow, I was a senior rec leader, and you were a camp participant.
Yeah.
That's where I met you. Your brother worked there too. Yeah. And I've seen you grow, and it's surreal to know that this kid that I used to work with and do summer field trips and activities is sitting here on my podcast 5 years later.
Yeah.
It's a
big moment. Yeah.
Big moment. Yeah. What is your fondest memory growing up in Watsonville and going through Camp Wow and the summer camps?
Yeah, I guess I always tell people it's always been that biggest sense of community, and I feel for the outsiders who don't live within Watsonville, they don't understand how powerful our community is. So growing up, that's all I remembered from being in the plaza on Fridays and farmers markets to at 5 years old being thrown into Camp Wow, and then from then every single summer, we just continue to meet new people, and that's what I've always loved is just those interactions because I feel like all the people who live within our community have they all have such diverse perspectives. And they all have really amazing stories, and that's what I think allows us to connect. So I think it's just always been that sense of community that I felt, and especially growing up in Camp Wow and, all the field trips that we would do and just meeting all the rec leaders and, for example, the ones that I still talk to today. So it's always been that sense of community for me, and I think that's what has always motivated me to, evolve as a person and continue to grow. So I think, just that sense of community.
And what did you love about Camp Wow specifically? You said field trips, we go to the farmers market, the community. But what was your favorite moments?
I guess any any field trip, I think, because, all the participants in Camp Wild, we all became so close because we were spending, 5 days a week together, 8 to 5. So it's, I guess.
For like 8 weeks
Yeah,
straight.
no, 8 weeks straight from, I think the middle of June all the way to the middle of August or the beginning of August. So I think, just growing those connections. And I think as we continue to participate in all the activities that we would do, and those already create so many memories. And then just the field trips, because I feel like in Watsonville, having a group that spends every single summer together, and, like we said, we're spending 8 weeks together, and we're going to all these different places like Golfland, ice skating, going to the movie theaters. So I guess, it's always been those, really valuable moments, but also the ones that provide the most joy and, I guess, happiness, because leaving those summers, that's all you think about during the school year is, I want it to be the summer again. I'm ready to go back to camp. I'm ready to see everyone who I normally see. And also just, the staff connections. Yeah. Because they're all amazing people.
Yeah. I remember, like, even now, like, I still see some kids here and there. Yeah. And, I mean, a lot of them are in high school your age. Yeah. The youngest, I think that I remember are probably, like, middle school. Yeah. And just to see them, like, after all these years, is like, geez. Like, because from your last camp year, 2021, I think my last camp with Camp Wild was 2020-ish. Yeah. Kind of that COVID. Yeah, COVID. And then I didn't see you for a couple of years, and I saw him like, oh, dang, Danny, you're all tall and all. It's like, it's a shock.
Yeah, yeah. And then it's crazy now because, I mean, camp has completely, like, evolved into something else. I think now it's, like, partnered with the district or something. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So I know it's really different, but that's, I think, what makes it so valuable is knowing that, as when we look back into the future, into the past, that's what we created. And, all those memories, that's all left in the past, and now that can't really be replicated. Yeah. Because it's evolved into its own new thing, and I think that's what makes everything so special. Is what we created has that's all in the past now, but we remember it so vividly. Yeah. And it still stays with us to this day. Yeah.
Oh no, for sure. Yeah. I think for me, like, those were like 2018. Was probably like my best summer as an adult because and I mean I still talk to Jessica obviously on a daily basis. You see Jessica, and so that connection, that mom, what's the word? Oh my gosh, I totally lost the word, but it's like a fraternity, right, and it's something that you're always going to remember for the rest of your life. Do you still stay in contact with kids that you went to Camp Wild with?
Yeah, I mean, I see some of them sometimes around town, and I was doing a school visit not too long ago at PV, and I saw one of them that was even doing the junior rec leader stuff with me in 2021. So it was really cool because I still talk to for example, like Iger on a daily basis, or not on a daily basis, but sometimes if a happy birthday comes around, or just a congratulations. So I think it's still cool because, those people, I also grew up with them since I was 5. Yeah. And we all continued that journey together. So, it's really cool to continue to speak with them. And also just staff, because, I mean, I still talk to, staff, for example, you and Jessica and, Jalissa. So I think, it's always really cool to see them and, talk about camp because, it's, like I said, such a cool experience.
Yeah, yeah. And so... and you kind of touched on that junior rec thing. Yeah. What was that junior rec thing, and kind of talk me through what your duties with
were. For those who don't know, Camp WOW was, I think it was from the ages 5 to 12. 5 to 12. So a lot of us who started Camp WOW from the age of 5, we were nearing the end of, that journey. And I think so our last summer was the 2019 summer, just pre-COVID. And I think that summer we were already 12. So, we were like, that's the end. And then after, COVID happened, and then we heard that Camp WOW was going to be coming back for the summer of 2021. And then I remember Gino, talking about, developing or creating the junior rec leader. So then we could be a part of it. And essentially we would be like helping staff lead the, camp activities and field trips. But it also provided a really valuable learning lesson as to, how to work with children, and also just taking on a big leadership skill because, growing up, we were always, just a participant, always going along. But this time we were, helping staff create games or, running them. So that also really helped with my leadership and really teaching me how to work with children and always, conflict solving or problem solving, because, we faced a lot of issues just as in any career pathway. So I think that, those were kind of the responsibilities, just really helping staff make their job easier too.
And do you think that led and kind of helped spark and mold the later on in the future becoming the student board trustee?
I think that was actually the beginning, like the foundation, because after I saw, just helping lead staff and, taking it upon myself to, create different things or even pitching new ideas to Gino, that was the beginning of it. And after that, as I continued, in school, more opportunities just presented themselves. And, that's what really, I think, motivated me to continue to, I really like this and now I want to continue this. And, what's the bigger step that I can take on? So, I would say, if anything, it was actually the foundation.
One thing that I remember from you a little bit back then is that you're a bit of a hustler.
Yeah.
You were a bit of a hustler. And I remember you would make slime. Oh my gosh, for those that don't know, Camp Wow slime was a staple. It was a staple activity.
That's what made us us.
Yeah. And so I remember hearing stories from your brother that you would make slime. He would sell it at school.
No, me and my friend, I think we were like the 4th or 5th grade, and we created this slime business where we had like listed all these different type of different slimes that you can purchase. And, we would decide, do you want to make this one? Do you want to take this order? And then the next day, we would bring it, get our money. And, but I think that eventually got shut down because the school didn't allow students to have businesses or something, or, just making profit, or, certain issues occurred. So,
because not just that, you did slime and then you got into baking.
And then I had Daniel's Baking. I had Alex as my delivery driver and everything. So I think that I also kind of stepped into this entrepreneurship role, but it ultimately led me back to leadership again, because I wanted to take on bigger roles as life continued and I continued to grow. So
and being obviously a student, you went to what schools did you attend to? So
from kinder until 6th grade, I went to Watsonville Charter School of the Arts, and then from starting in 7th grade, I transitioned to Aptos Junior High, and I was only at Aptos Junior High for 5-6 months, and then COVID happened, so then everything just moved online, and then 8th grade was completely online, and then 9th grade, that's when I began at Aptos High, and we resumed again, which was definitely a really different experience, your freshman year being, covered up in mask and, trying to recognize who's this person. I remember kind of seeing them in junior high, but so.
Take me through that COVID experience. I mean, I remember it like it was yesterday. It was like the new year, and there was kind of some news about a virus or just a flu, right? And it was happening right overseas.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And then it started getting this person caught it because they flew here. And at first it was not a big deal, right? At least for me as an adult. But as a kid, when you found out that there's a virus here and we had to shut down in spring, right?
Yeah.
What was going through your head? How do you, as a preteen teenager at that time, process a global pandemic of that nature?
I think it was a really super depressing moment, and I think in March, because March is my birthday month, so that's when everything started getting more serious. And I remember I had my whole birthday party planned and everything, and then a lot of my friends, because I think school ended up getting shut down 3 days before the party. That's when we're going online for about a week. That's what they originally said, and no one really showed up to my party because that's when it became all serious. And then I think once that first week of online school or whatever happened, first day I remember getting a packet, a giant packet in my math class, and I was told, you'll be back in a week, just make sure that you finish it all. And I never saw that packet again because we completely transitioned to being online. And that second semester of my 7th grade was really hard because I wasn't used to waking up and, going on Google Meets and stuff. So my grades really went down during that semester because I just wasn't really motivated. Everything was really depressing. Everything, you see everything shutting down. I think we got, certain restrictions on being outside. You couldn't really go to the beach after a certain time. So it was a really depressing moment. And even throughout the summer, I saw, some family here and there just outdoors visiting my cousins in Santa Cruz because they live in like these apartment complexes. So we were able to interact there. But yeah, it was really weird to completely miss out on school. And then I remember even the first semester of my 8th grade year was also really difficult, and I wasn't motivated because I just couldn't really take it seriously. I didn't have that, and I didn't have those interactions with my teachers. I couldn't see my classmates, so it was really difficult. And I think the second semester, once I realized like I can't continue this anymore, like I can't keep failing these classes or just letting let myself go just because I don't feel motivated or
and how did you keep yourself motivated? How did you cope with those moments of like, I want to give up, I can't see my friends, I can't see my family? How does a kid at that, and everyone's different, everyone had different experience, but how did you cope with those moments, and what did you do to kind of like pick yourself up?
I just continued to remind myself, look into the future because I knew that this eventually was going to end and we were going to resume back to normal, because I always tried to keep positive thoughts in my head. So I just continued to tell myself, like, you have to get started somehow. Like, eventually when we get out of this, you can't remain in the same state that you've been in for the last couple months. And when you're actually back in person, you're not going to be used to doing any schoolwork, and you're not going to be motivated to do anything else. So I really realized that it's time to go back to how I used to be, motivated and determined to continue my educational journey, and that's what I did. So I, started going to teachers' office hours online and really asking them the questions, and I think it was really evident that I, was motivated to progress from there. And I think, I completely did a 360, a full circle from second semester of 8th grade online, and and then really motivated and continuing to do my schoolwork. So then as freshman year came around, I was prepared and really ready to showcase my full potential.
And so you get to high school as a freshman. There's still those kind of regulations. You can't do certain things. You got to wear a mask. It's not your typical freshman experience.
Definitely.
And I can only imagine, because I mean, I work for the school district, and I was struggling too. Mask every day and keeping everyone safe. It was just a mess. And so your obviously experience was a little bit different. And what does Daniel do as a freshman, as all this, you're back to normal, you're not back to normal, you still got to follow guidelines. You're trying to find yourself, because everyone knows freshman year, like, it's like almost like a chicken with your head cut off. You're trying to figure out who you are, what organization or what to join. So how did that go for you?
I think it was really important that I ended up transitioning to Aptos Junior, because if I hadn't, I would have been really lost, because I wouldn't have had any of those friends. Since Aptos Junior High really feeds into Aptos High School, but those friends were really important throughout that that whole process, especially you always hear those stories as as a freshman you're going to walk the hallways alone, or you're not going to find anyone. So those friends were really helpful in those moments when there was a lot of self-doubt, or where do I find my sense of belonging. But it was also difficult because we had I think it was like a full week, and then the next week the stabbing had happened. So then I think school was canceled for 2 days. So I mean, it was definitely kind of a scary experience, because you always hear these things about high school. It can get ugly sometimes, and then that's the first thing you see as a freshman 1 week in. So I mean, it was difficult too to find your footing when there's so much animosity and kind of there's constant news vans, or there's just so much attention on your school site.
And not the positive kind.
Not the positive. That's not what you want to be known for. So that was kind of difficult, but as once that had occurred and we continued to move forward, I just I guess, continue to motivate myself. I really just wanted to focus on my schoolwork. I wanted to, show my teachers that, I'm driven, I'm motivated, I want to continue to improve myself. And that's what I, really did throughout freshman year. And the end of freshman year, that's when I ended up getting a job too at the Boardwalk.
Okay, I remember I heard that from your brother.
Yeah. So that's what really helped too, because now I wasn't just focusing only on schoolwork, but getting that job was also really helpful because I was able to kind of transport all the work ethic skills that I learned at the junior rec program to at Marini's, which is where I still work. So that was also really helpful throughout my freshman year, because that I wanted to just continue to push myself. And during the summer I didn't with I think the junior rec thing kind of being done, during the 2022 summer, I knew that I wanted to do something else. I've never just sat, on the couch all day during the summer. So I think that was
because I heard that you were always working.
Yeah, no,
every time I talk to your brother, I would talk to someone like, "Oh, Dad, what's Daniel?" "Oh, he's just working."
Yeah. I think I was working at least almost over like 36 hours a week. And there were points where I wouldn't see my mom or dad for like weeks straight or like a couple days straight, because I would go in around, like, for example, like noon, and then I would get out at 9, but then like my coworkers would take me home. Everyone would already be sleeping. So I would be sleeping when everyone else leaves to work, and then, so vice versa. And, so it felt weird to not, but I never really felt burnt out or exhausted, because it was almost like entering a new little version of, a new chapter in my life.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. And I met so many people from that, all of my amazing coworkers, which I am really close to today.
What's the one skill that you would say, being motivated?
Yeah.
What's the one skill that you feel like you learned during your junior rec time that helped you transition to getting a real job? What skill do you think really helped you out, and what do you really appreciate about that?
I think time management. Yeah, because I think during the junior rec program, we were always really kind of on a tight schedule. Everything was structured in a way where, we have to be at this field trip at this time, we have to leave, our break is here, we have to start this activity here. So I think that was really helpful, because as a manager right now at Marini's, I'm constantly having to manage breaks, or, transition people around. You're off at this time, now you have to move here, or, just constantly moving people around. And that has always been really helpful from camp, because we always encountered those, same problems where, okay, what time are we going to start this? You have to be here now. So that was a really helpful skill.
Yeah. And your first day on the job at Marini's.
Yeah.
What was your position, and then your manager now?
Yeah.
Take me through your first day.
Yeah, so my first day, because the way that Marini's does it is we have like an orientation, and then we have training. But I remember my very first day was on a weekday, because I told my manager that I wanted to still work. We were nearing the end of school. I think this was late May, but I told my manager, I want to work on the weekday. So I think one of my first shifts was at, I think it started like at 4 p.m. or something, 4 to like 7, something really short. And it was a little confusing at first, because I had never had that like customer interaction. I'd never really, sold things, besides the slime and baking business. It was always to people who I knew.
Yeah.
So it was, difficult to, learn the register and counting change and all that stuff. Nothing that I was really used to.
Yeah.
So, but I think I was able to pick up everything really fast, even though there's so much to Marini's with, drinks and candy and caramel apples and all that stuff. Cause we sell a lot of things, and it's hard to memorize pricing and all that stuff. But so I started as a sales associate, and then a year later, I already got promoted to a sales team leader. And then basically a year and a half later, now a sales assistant manager.
Okay.
So
so moving on.
Moving on. Yeah. Always trying to continue to grow.
Yeah. What's your favorite thing at Marini's?
I would probably say if it's anything about, I would probably say we have this really good caramel apple. It's called like the apple pie one. So it's like this caramel apple, and it has like white chocolate and cinnamon sugar.
Ooh.
Really good.
Okay.
But a lot of the things that they make, everything is really good. And I really like that job, because it's a perfect job for, any teen who's, beginning to look for a job, or, trying to develop their work skills. So, yeah, the schedule's also really flexible too, and
Yeah.
that's been really helpful throughout the school year. When I tell my manager I can only work during this time, or I want to take some time off, so that's been really helpful. And all the people I've met have just made my summers also amazing throughout the last couple of years. Yeah,
Chocolate covered bacon.
chocolate covered bacon. Yeah,
If you think of me and you're coming home and you're bringing a little something, bring me some chocolate covered bacon. That's probably one of the things that I didn't think was gonna work.
Yeah.
But it works.
No, it does. It's like a really interesting, like sweet, savory flavor. But it actually, a lot of people, they see the name and they just like give me a face. They're like chocolate covered bacon.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you can't hate it until you try it. So
I always tell everyone, try everything once.
Yeah.
Just once.
No,
you don't have to do it after that, but just try it once.
Yeah. And it's something that people never even think about combining. But and it's cool because at Marini's, I've had like the opportunity to dip it. Because a lot of people think that when the chocolates are dipped, that you just kind of like dip it in the like chocolate maker thing. But no, it's actually like you have to lift the handle and the chocolate comes out and you're like almost like playing with it. But the bacon's really difficult because it breaks really easily.
Yeah.
So you have to just really be really careful, and you have to like temper the chocolate perfectly, or else you get white stripes. So it's like a really complicated process. But yeah, it's really cool.
And which Marines do you work at? Is it in the boardwalk or is it the one in the
at the boardwalk? Yeah, so it's cool because at the boardwalk we have, I think, 5 locations.
Oh, okay.
On the boardwalk. But in the beginning, I would work everywhere as a sales associate. But once I transitioned to a sales team lead, I'm only at 2 locations because I'm, the leader of those 2. And now as a manager, I'm only scheduled at 1. But as a manager, you're doing store checks, so you're kind of floating around everywhere. But yeah, so it's pretty cool.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
And as you're telling me your journey with working and how Camp Wow, what is a leader to you? What does it mean to be a leader?
Yeah, I think being a leader means to create a path that you're guiding others through, and one that resembles excellence and integrity, and also transparency. I think that's what a true leader is someone who always showcases transparency to the fullest extent. And I think that's what even when dealing with like employees, I always open and honest as possible, or always creating different solutions that people wouldn't think about. I think being a leader also means to be an innovative thinker, and that's, I think, something that has also worked from camp because we, like I said earlier too, we always ran into issues, but we were always problem solving and coming up with different solutions, whether it was with participants or just different field trip problems. So I think that has always been something, and also that just level of transparency that even is important, as my role as a student trustee, in the school district and even at Camp Wow to work. I think that level of transparency is probably the most important skill anyone can have, and a core value too.
Yeah. And so with that, as you continue to learn, right, you're working, and you're in high school, right?
Yeah.
Were you part of any other clubs or any other projects with Aptos High?
Yeah. It's interesting too because that's something a lot of people ask me, because they think that from this role I was like involved in so much from the beginning, but really, like, if I'm being honest, freshman, sophomore year, nothing really, and then junior year, that's when I not only was a part of the Aptos for Africa club that one of my friends had created, but also I was volunteering at Watsonville Charter, my former elementary school, as an after-school tutor. So I was working with my former 3rd grade teacher to just provide homework support for kids, in math and English, and that was something that also really helped. That was, I guess, the second step into the role as a student trustee. So I think we started off with the Camp Wow, and then I went to the after-school tutor, and then that's what was the driving force to then lead to the student trustee position. But
you had mentioned the
Aptos for Africa.
Aptos for Africa. What is that? And
So
how'd you get involved in that?
Yeah, so that was a club that my friend had founded, and the goal was to partner with a nonprofit organization to provide monetary donations for women in Africa who lack like adequate access to menstrual products, and also just provide that sense of education also over there to people who really find it kind of like a taboo thing. So that was something that was really interesting to become a part of, because we hosted different club meetings at our school, and they showed these presentations, and we were able to get input from students who were interested in joining the club. So that was really cool to be a part of, and that was the part of the reason why I wanted to do the Seal of Civic Engagement, because that also stands out. But that's kind of the backstory to it.
And what would you learn during that time that you helped out and you did those those meetings with students and everything?
I think I really just learned how. I mean, I always knew how important education was, but I didn't learn how important it is, but also how much of a privilege it is, because there's so many people around the world who don't have the variety of opportunities that we have within our community as well. So I think that's what just really made me grateful for everything that we have, and being able to provide any sort of support that I can for others who only wish to have the opportunities that we have. I think that was what I learned the most.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And you said that kind of pushed you to, joining the school board.
Yeah.
Take me through that. At what point were you like, woke up this morning like, hey, Mom, Dad, I'm going to do this?
Yeah.
Or was it like a thought, an afterthought? They're like, oh, it's an idea. Yeah. At what moments were you like, I'm going to do it?
Yeah. No, I think it was a really unique experience, because prior to applying for it, I was attending school board meetings, because that's part of the requirement to get the Seal of Civic Engagement. So I remember attending one, and there was a really long presentation about the declining enrollment, but so many people were, getting bored, and they were getting up to leave, but I was fascinated throughout the whole process. I found it really interesting, and, just seeing all the board members. And it's interesting because I think at that meeting, the one that I went to, our former student trustee wasn't there. So I wasn't even aware that we had a student trustee position. And I remember, I think, an email being sent out a couple weeks after that by our principal, just letting students, incoming juniors and seniors, know that the position is now open. And I didn't really think much of it, and then I saw on the PVUSD account they were also promoting it. And, they showed a picture of our former student trustee, and the search for the student trustee thing. And I thought about it for a couple days and really contemplated whether or not it was something I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And then I remember my mom and my sister were sitting in the living room, and I had my computer open and was going through my emails, and that one just for some reason popped up again. And I thought, why not give it a shot?
Yeah.
And the application wasn't too lengthy. It was really just one question, briefly let us know why you want to be a student trustee.
That's it? That's
all it was? No, that's all it was. So to me, it didn't really feel like an application. It felt more like an interest form.
Yeah.
Because, it didn't feel long, and I was able to, type up what I wanted to say. Looking back, I can't remember how I answered that question, but so I finished it, submitted it. And I didn't think I was actually even going to get an interview, because I remember even reaching out to our PIO asking, have you guys selected the candidates who you wanted to interview? And then I think a day after, that's when I get a response saying that, congratulations, you've been invited to interview.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're invited to interview. Was it like, oh, cool? Did you feel like you were going to get it? Was it like, oh, I mean, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah. I think it was more that feeling. I didn't expect anything of it. I didn't think I was going to get it, because I know there's plenty of other people who are just as interested in it. And, who also have really valuable perspectives, and can probably communicate themselves in a more eloquent manner. So I thought, I saw it as a good step that I was invited to an interview, but I still wasn't expecting anything from it. And I think that's when the nerves began to set in, because in the interview, in the email was also listed that I would be interviewing with the former student trustee, the superintendent, and the PIO, and then the superintendent's assistant. And then it was supposed to be another assistant superintendent, but she wasn't there that day. So I thought, maybe it was just going to be with one person. But then I realized, now it's a whole panel. And I've never, had an interview with the whole panel, because back to Marini's, it was just, the general manager. Yeah. So that's when it began to sink in. And I was just practicing different questions that I thought they would be asking me the days leading up to that.
And what questions did they ask you?
So there were 4 questions, and they were listed on the table, so they wouldn't have to repeat them. And I think one of them Also, again, asked why you wanted to be a student trustee. One of them talked about the inner high council, which is how I meet with all the ASB students the day leading up to the board meeting, and asked how, how would you feel handling that? And then one also asked about time management and how you would handle your student trustee responsibilities with like your personal life ones. And I think the last question asked, do you have any questions for us? So it was pretty simple too, pretty straightforward. And yeah, it was,
Okay. And so you had that panel, nervous as heck.
Nervous as heck, yeah.
You know, I mean, for me, the entire work history, I've only had a panel once.
Yeah.
And that was like maybe like 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
You had it like right off the back, like
Yeah.
your second interview ever. And so when did you find out that you got the job?
The day after the interview.
Really?
Yeah. So it was interesting because I was told after the interview, first of all, that, right after that, everyone who got interviewed was going to be a part of another superintendent council called the Core Six, because 6 of us were interviewed. So we would be working directly with the superintendent. And I was like, maybe that was their way of kind of shutting me down, letting me know that, you didn't get it, but you're still going to be part of this.
Yeah.
And, they just said, we'll let everyone know in about a week. And the next morning I'm walking up to one of my tutorial classes, and I get a phone call from our PIO, and I answer it, and she's like, congratulations, like you've been selected as the student trustee. And there's a recording that my friend was recording because, I was shocked. Like I didn't expect anything of it.
Yeah.
And, so I immediately accepted it because I was like, wow, this is just like a surreal moment, because when I had applied, just a couple weeks prior, I would have never expected this. And, so it was really cool to have that phone call and, the very first, kind of anticipation leading up to, the decision, because at Meridians, I got the job on the spot, in the interview. So this was the only time where I'm really thinking to myself, like, was my interview that good? Was I able to showcase all my abilities? And, I guess I was, because I was able to be selected. Yeah, I was selected.
The next day. And did they kind of give you an idea? So there were 6 of you guys that they interviewed.
Yeah, 6.
Out of how many?
I believe there was around 20-something applicants. Yeah, so from the 20, they narrowed it down to the 6. And I was the first out of the 6 to be interviewed. I think I was the first one there at the district office.
Okay.
Which was also nerve-wracking because I had never even heard of the 4th floor.
Yeah.
It's really
that place
intimidating.
is a maze.
And I know it's like the former hospital, so that's even it was really cool. But I remember, so I walked in. There's like the office lady, and I'm like, I can't even go through the doors yet. Like, I have to get like access. And so I just told her I'm here for the student trustee. She called up. Confirmed that we're doing it, and then she just told me, go sit. And then I see someone come in with their mom, and I was all alone. So I was like, should I have brought my mom? So then they tell me, okay, you're first, go up. So, it's intimidating hearing all the directions, okay, go through the doors, take a left, to go straight, and then get in the elevator, press to the 4th floor, then take a right. It's really all these directions. And I'm like, okay, I hope I don't get lost. I was able to make it to the superintendent's office, and, that's where I met our former student trustee, and I was able to talk to her and our PIO, because I had never met them before. And it was really cool to hear about what they're doing while we wait for our superintendent. Yeah. She's in a meeting, and seeing her name on the office. And
it's the new superintendent.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. She had just started that month, because my interview was late May and she had just started May 1st. So so it was also cool meeting her, because we were both almost going to get started in these new roles. Yeah.
No, that is crazy. I mean, to shoot your shot, right? And it's almost like, I'm going to try for shits and giggles, right?
Literally, yeah.
Yeah, and ended up getting it, and you get the call the next day. That's what a way to start your senior year, I guess.
No, yeah, it was definitely such a big thing, because my family, my mom was so proud of me, everything. Every time, when I first got that email saying, you've been invited, I immediately sent them to our group chat, and they were all really happy. But then, getting the phone call and receiving the email saying, congratulations, and having the superintendent be included in that, and my principal, it just really felt like a surreal moment. And I even felt more honored because I think it was the first time that there had been a student trustee from Aptos in about like 5 or 6 years. So it was also a big deal because I was, I'm representing the whole district, but I'm also representing Aptos because that's what everyone's going to see me for. I'm the student from Aptos.
Yeah.
And I'm the first one in like 5 or 6 years. So it was really important to also represent my school as well as all the schools and all the students. So it was really cool. It was really cool.
Yeah. And so from the minute you got that okay, that, hey, you're the guy, right?
Yeah.
To your first board meeting, what did you have to do in between that time leading up to your first board meeting in August?
Yeah, so there was a lot of things that I try to do in order to prepare myself because one was watching film, and that was, replaying all the board meetings and watching how our former student trustee reported during the governing reports and what was she saying and how can I, match that level. So that was, part of it. The second part was participating in the Student Trustee Academy, which is hosted by the Santa Cruz County Office of Ed. So they host an academy for students who are, potentially interested or, just want to learn more about school districts and governance, and also student trustees who are going to be a student trustee the next year. So I was only able to participate for about 2 out of the 6 sessions just because I was also in Italy and Europe with my school on a educational trip. So, but as soon as I came back, I did all I could to, read through all their sessions and what they were learning, and then attended all the, the last 2 sessions. But from those 2, I was still able to learn a lot, and, still in contact with our PIO throughout the whole summer. This is, I'm going to do a press release about you being appointed. Now you're going to start working with Michael Berman, our Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services, because you're going to lead the inter-high committee with ASB students, so be prepared for that. So it was really unique to now have all these different responsibilities and obligations put on me because I like that kind of pressure, and I like being able to rise to the occasion, I guess you could say.
So you would say that pressure is a comfort zone for you?
Yeah, I would say I think because pressure, it either breaks or, showcases individuals to their true potential. It's something that you've never seen from them before. And I think that's what I really wanted, the pressure that was put on me to show that, I can match it and, I can overcome it, but also show people that, wow, this is what he can truly do.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're working at Marini's.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going into your senior year.
Yeah.
And you have this big responsibility.
Yeah.
And you're going through trainings and all that.
Yeah.
And you have to balance school. You have to balance so much stuff.
Yeah.
So you would say that time management that you learned from Camp Wow was a big factor in how you managed everything up to this point?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it was always just being on that schedule that we always had because everything was so organized that we did. And I think that was really important even to this role because, okay, I finished this. Now I need to focus on this to make sure that I can have this board report ready. I need to send this information to the PIO so she can now publish it. And, just always, because I think at camp we always made sure that we were able to complete everything. And that's something that I wanted to do too. I wanted to make sure I finish everything that's on my plate, from schoolwork to all my responsibilities from the student trustee to just personal life things that I have to accomplish. So that has always been something.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it seems that just the way that you're telling me and what I've seen and what I've known of you, I feel like you have set a standard.
Yeah.
Right. Because I'll say this, that prior to you, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but I feel like I didn't really pay attention, or this past student board trustees really left a mark enough to remember who they were, Yeah. And I don't mean this in any way biased because I know you, but it's like your presence was felt. Yeah. We're going into the end of the school year. Your last board meeting was last week. Yeah. Right. So I feel like you've set a standard for school board of trustees, and so with that, your first day, your first board meeting, you're a senior.
Yeah.
Talk me through that day, the day before, the anticipation.
Yeah, no, yeah, and definitely I think this year too, because I wanted to make sure that this seat was not just, oh, cool, we have a student, they can share their thoughts sometimes about what we're voting on, but, something where it's almost like you're not even labeled as a student trustee, you're just like a trustee, but from, a school site. So that I wanted to make sure that, I was speaking on as many items as I could, because a lot of them, are all impacting us. So yeah, I just really wanted to set this high standard that to make this seat something that it's never been before. But I remember the day leading up to everything, I was super nervous, just everything, because I remember watching how the former student trustee was, her first time. And, I was like, oh my God, like I'm going to take an oath. Like, I've never had that experience before. And then I'm probably going to give like an opening speech. And then like the day of, during like our morning announcements, the school also announces it. So I'm like, and then, my class is like clapping. So now everyone's aware of it. The press release has come out. And, so the day before I was really nervous, but then the day of, just heart beating so fast. And I remember driving to the chambers, and I was sitting in my car because I had gotten there so early, and my heart was just, I had never, taken an oath before, envisioned myself, giving a speech in front of, it was still pretty packed around that time just because of a lot of the controversial things that were going on. So, I was just really nervous. And then once the time came, I had invited so many family and friends, just because they all knew how important this moment was going to be for me. So that was really cool. And, so, taking the oath and then, being seated up there was such a surreal moment, because, a couple months prior, interviewing for the position, I would have never imagined now being in that role. And I was really thrown in there, and really valued every single moment. And, I wasn't really sure when to speak or how things worked. I was really still trying to understand the, whole governance process, and the kind of format of the meetings, making motions and voting, and what is consent agenda, what is everything else. So that was really cool, because from those meetings I was able to learn so much early on, and begin kind of building my connections with every board member.
Okay.
Yeah.
And with your first under the belt, and right, because they're held every month, unless it's like a special meeting. Sometimes it could be 2 to 3 meetings a month, right?
Definitely.
There's been some early on some controversy, right, that you faced.
Yeah.
There's been things that were said about you, right?
Yeah.
Publicly.
Yeah.
By people on the board.
Yeah.
What was that like, and how did you move past it? Because that was your third, fourth?
Yeah, because let's see. So there was the August 28th one, and then there was the September 11th, September 25th, and then it was the October 9th. So my fifth meeting,
my fifth
meeting, yeah. And I was just really talking to students, and that former trustee, what they were saying really about our community, and we talked about the value of community earlier, especially ours.
Yeah.
So just speaking to students, and they're also civically engaged, so they're watching our board meetings, and they were coming to me telling me, what is this trustee saying? Why are we getting called ignorant? Because that wasn't just addressed to that one individual in the room. Anyone can go back and watch the footage of when I called out that trustee and told them, what you said about our community being ignorant on September 25th wasn't just to that one individual. You said our whole community was ignorant. So I told my mom leading up, and I mentioned that in my closing speech, that I was always going to stand up for what is right.
Yeah.
And, I decided that, you guys, the board, spent the whole summer working on the board governance handbook and creating all these core values. And, that wasn't really being upheld with the comments that were being made. It was kind of a counterintuitive situation. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to do something about it, and, just kind of respectfully be like, students are reporting this to me, because that's essentially what my job is as a student trustee. I'm supposed to be representing students. So what students are telling me, that's what I'm going to tell the board. And that's why, I made that comment. Everything that I stated was factual, and I even quoted what was said. but
because it's all public record.
It's all public record.
Yeah.
Anyone can go back to PVUSD streaming on YouTube and go watch the meetings. So yeah, and getting told, get your facts straight, and you want to be a colleague or member on this board or whatever what was said. And I know there was a lot of tension just because I had endorsed Trustee Gabriel Medina leading up to that, so he had found out because that's who his opponent was, in the election. So I know there was some tension there just because of that, but it was just so ironic. And that's when actually I even saw how more powerful our community was when they stood up for me throughout that whole situation.
Yeah.
Because I had members during public comment, speak up for me, immediately call him out for bullying. There was an individual, a teacher who was watching the board meeting live, but, came down to the Mello Center just because he heard what was said to me. So that's when I truly saw how much the community valued what I was doing. And I was even getting emails from cabinet, telling me like, are you okay? Like, you're so brave and all this stuff and all the courage that you possess. So, yeah.
And how do you handle that? I mean, at the time, 17, right?
Yeah.
How do you handle a situation? How did you handle that situation? Because you're nervous. I mean, it's your 5th meeting. You don't expect an adult, especially in a position like that, to speak in a manner publicly to not just a minor, but
like a
student that is representing all students.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think in the moment, it was definitely kind of, I expected kind of some retaliation. And I guess it was kind of emotional in the beginning to be spoken to like that. And so, yeah, but I think I was more emotional just when I saw everyone sticking up for me. But, later leaving that meeting because he had left early. But later, that's when I really began to realize that what had happened wasn't okay and, something needs to be done about it.
Yeah.
And, I had one board member reach out to me, asked if I was okay. And, it was just obviously really difficult because being spoken to like that, publicly, online, it's live streamed. It's really difficult, but, I got a call from the superintendent later that night. So we had a long conversation. She was able to check in. I know she's also in a difficult position because how can you really, stand up to your boss? Like those, they were her bosses, but, she assured me that, something was going to be done. She would, talk, with that trustee. And I remember talking to my mom and just realizing, something has to be done. So that's when I kind of took it upon myself to research how, we could do something about this. And that's when we kind of came across the William complaints thing. And when I filed that complaint, I knew that it was a difficult situation because, trustees aren't employees of the district and they're elected by the people. So I knew that, he wasn't going to be really able to be punished, but I knew that the word was going to spread. And, I wanted people to, especially all my students who I was representing, to understand that when you're spoken to like this, it's not something that you just back down from, but rather, you're going to push forward and show that, action is going to be done from this. Yeah. And that's when I filed the complaint. And it did get, public attention. I had, there was an article by the Pajaronian.
It spread like wildfire.
Yeah, no, it spread, yeah. And people, a lot of people were in support of it, but I also got, some emails, especially from older people in our community trying to, I guess, like lecture me. And, I remember getting a really condescending email from one individual, like the subject was like Democracy 101 and really saying that, the trustees are only accountable to to their like, elected whatever members and they should never have a complaint filed against them and, told me like withdraw your complaint. And I responded, it's well within my rights to advocate for what's best for students and, I'm not going to back down. So I just made sure, I did this for a reason and, it was really valued by my fellow students who I brought this forward to. And that's what really motivated me to take action in the first place.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I think that's a very important thing to do. And we talk about leadership, right?
Yeah.
To be a leader and do the difficult things, right? When sometimes you're alone.
Yeah.
And that's a testament to what a leader is. Sometimes you have to speak out. Sometimes you're going to stand alone.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm glad that you did because again, at the time, 17, this is all new. We should be uplifting. We should be teaching.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Leading ourselves to the younger generation. And it's unfortunate that happened the way it did. But fast forward, November, we know what happened.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it was just really, kind of cool to see the way that things did play out because it all happened for a reason. And, it was just really ironic to, kind of purport that you want to support all students and then you're actively attacking the one student who's on your board. So that, that throughout that whole situation, that was just something that never sat right with me because, even meetings that I've met with, when I've met with other students, they've, told me how, they played that, teachers have played that board meeting in their class and, they're like, that should have never happened to you. I'm so sorry, or what you did was right. So everyone knew that, students were proud of what I was doing, and that really also inspired me. And that gave me the validation to know that what I did was right, and they supported it, and also just standing up to a trustee before, because that's that on that board, no one really stood up to each other, and I wanted to make sure that trustees can be standed up to. They're not they don't have this unlimited source of power, untouchable. So that's what I wanted to really show. And so that's what.
No, power to you. And I'm gonna say this: that's probably, that whole incident was just the tip of the iceberg, because you went through 2 different boards in 1 year.
Yeah, which was really unique. No student. It's really rare for a board to ever flip 3 seats. So it was really such a valuable experience to be part of that board during an election season. And really, how you said, just sit with 2 different boards.
2 different boards, and then another one added on later on. So you're pretty much with 4 brand new people on the board.
No, exactly.
And so obviously there's differences in each board.
Yeah.
How did you manage to navigate the board, because everyone has a different personality?
Yeah.
Right? Everyone has different opinions, different viewpoints. And so as a student trustee, it's like, how do you agree? Do you agree with some things? You don't agree with some things?
Yeah.
And how do those do you join the meetings, the closed sessions?
No. Yeah, that's something I can't do just because it's all confidential and personnel. Yeah, okay. So unfortunately, but I wish that student trustees could be able to join closed session, because I think there's still a lot of important decisions that are made, such as like expulsions or even negotiations, or I think especially with expulsions, because I think it's always really important to have that student perspective in there, and that doesn't happen. But I get it, just because of confidentiality. Yeah.
So how do you meet with the board? Do you ever meet with them together? Do you do separately?
Yeah. So a lot of the times, what I've started doing recently, a couple meetings leading up to my last one, was when I host the inter-high committee meetings with the ASB students, I started inviting 2 trustees on, and I wanted them to see what students were telling me, and if students had any questions for them directly, because that was a direct opportunity for them to ask questions.
Yeah.
And I wish I could have more on, but if I had another one, that would violate the Brown Act, so I couldn't. But a lot of trustees will just reach out individually, or we'll have a phone call, or we'll communicate through that. But a lot of the times I'm also able to contact them through or just speak with them in person, and we have really meaningful conversations.
Yeah.
So that's always been really important too. But yeah, it's been really crazy to see the dynamic of the 2 boards, because I would say, as a student trustee on the previous board, it felt very authoritarian, and as if what I was saying wasn't really heard.
Yeah.
I felt almost kind of like a puppet for the president and vice president. They wanted to claim that they represent all they're there for students, but actively disregarding what I would say, and just didn't really feel valued. But now with this board, it's completely different. That's been evident through my ability to get my student civic engagement handbook on there, and then also just revising the board bylaw. So, so much has been done.
Yeah. And this last home stretch, right?
Yeah.
Was kind of rough.
Yeah.
Right. Very rough with the new board. obviously I can't speak. It's public record. Everyone
Yeah.
could see it, but I don't want to speak on it for various reasons. But how do you? It's like you can't pick a side,
Yeah.
right? You can't pick a side
Yeah.
because your interest at the end of the day is for the students, point blank.
Yeah.
Right. You're doing everything that in your power that to do what's best for the students.
Yeah.
And sometimes, maybe something is said that you agree with or something that you don't agree with, but like, how do you find that middle ground that it's for the students? Because there's so much going on. You sit up there, and I've seen you up there, and there's just like back and forth.
Yeah.
How do you manage your emotions, and how do you stay cool and calm during times like that?
Yeah, no, it's really difficult too, especially when there's like certain conflicts because I'm so close with every board member. So it's really hard to pick a side because I value both of them and have had amazing experiences with all of them. So it's really difficult in those situations, and especially with controversial ones. I know, for example, like the budget. That's really controversial in that it's hard to pick a situation because I really understand where a lot of students are coming from when they talk about, mental health support and, the need and everything because those services are, imperative to our well-being, but also understanding, the financial situation that our district is in. So I think that has been the most difficult situation to take a stance on because I see what all students are saying, but I also understand, the district's perspective and also our CBO who has worked tirelessly to, explain everything and really communicate everything effectively.
Because you have to stay neutral.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to go against what all the students are saying, but I also really understand the situation that we're in. So it's really difficult because my goal also as a student trustee is to help support our superintendent because I understand the situation that she's in. And I also work with her really closely. So, I've been able to get a lot of information provided that I know, some students have. So it's also that perspective that I bring in that a lot of the students don't see. But that has been the most difficult is also just to not take a stance during, the budget situation. And I did during the first meeting because I did talk about the mental health support and how we need to preserve that. And I can't imagine cutting those resources. But I, also see everything that the school districts in California are facing, and I understand the implications of not making decisions. So it's just been a really hard process.
And do you get backlash from students or any kind of negative feedback for that same reason? It's like, Danny, students this, and that. But like you said, like you agree with them, you want to be on their side, but you have to see it from this side because that is your job to see it from a neutral perspective.
Yeah. I never really got any backlash from like the budget cut situation because I know when they first agreed on the initial cuts on January 15th, I just talked about the mental health support. And then on February 12th, which was the position reductions, I was just asking about like certain things about the mental health clinicians, but never really took like a certain stance on that. And during the last meeting, I did talk about the concern from the students' perspective because it is concerning to know that starting this academic year, the 2025 to 2026, 95% of our budget, of our $315 million budget, is going to be spent on salaries and benefits.
Yeah.
And that leaves 5% to the students, and that leaves for facilities and educational programs. So that is alarming to know because it's a really unfortunate situation to know that you have to cut something. You're either cutting, teachers or, district employees, or you're cutting educational programs or things that directly affect students. So it's just a really difficult situation moving forward. But I know that our CBO and I mentioned it in the meeting that it's normal for school districts to spend around like 87% of their budget on salaries and benefits. So it's just like a concern I have leaving the seat is, as the district continues the sustainable budget process throughout the next year, and there's going to be improvements because that's never been done before, and I've never heard like of a school district having like a sustainable budget team because mostly it's the guidance of whatever the CBO and superintendent say, but having that community input has been great. But I think as we move forward, that's going to be fixed, And yeah, I feel situations like those are difficult because I understand the implications and what every school district is facing. But
Yeah.
you know, every school district is also unique, and they all have their own needs.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because you just, like I said, you had just finished your last board meeting
Yeah,
this past week, and I got to give you props because you're there from beginning to end.
yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes those things go
Well,
midnight, 1 o'clock,
Yeah.
2 o'clock.
And that's also something I wanted to make sure is, you know, I didn't want to, like, no disrespect to any of the previous student trustees, but I know that a lot of them left the meetings early. And there were still, and I completely understand that because of homework, and, you know, you have to be up early the next day, but there's also a lot of decisions that are made, you know, later in the night that need student input. And, you know, there's no students there who, because they're all, you know, they're not going to speak during public comment because it's already, you know, 1 a.m. So they're sleeping or doing homework. But, you know, I wanted to make sure, you know, I signed up for this position, so I want to stay in. You know, every board member, the superintendent, cabinet, you know, would always tell me, you're like, you know, go home, like, you know, it's late. But, you know, I said no because there's a lot of things that still happen and a lot of things that are voted on. And I wanted to make sure that I'm able to provide my perspective, or, you know, just continue to learn by, you know, witnessing what's going on. So, yeah, that's something that I told to myself that, you know, I'm not going to leave early. I'm going to continue to stay in. Because I know sometimes the board will reconvene to closed session on the no end, but, you know, I'll stay up until that mark until they're going to reconvene or the meeting is adjourned. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think the latest one of the board meetings was supposed to, they had it go until 12, but they amended it or they made a motion to extend it till 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, no, luckily, like, it went till 2.
Yeah.
And I left like at 11:45. I was like, I'm out.
No, yeah, no, I know. They go so late. And I think that one I stayed until 1:50. That's when I think, something along. I think the latest one I had, was around 1:50. But that's also something that's interesting because it's not really healthy for anyone to make decisions past
At that.
So, I know a lot of the trustees get tired too. So it's just something, you know, to think about moving forward is, you know, because I think it's not healthy to have everyone stay there that late, regardless if it's the trustees or cabinet or, you know, the public in general too. So, our district is very unique, but it's also really special.
Yeah. Oh, match PVUSD.
Yeah.
You guys can find a way to maybe even start them earlier.
Yeah, I know. But then it's like difficult because it's like, well, then people are still at work. And then so it's just, you know, it's really difficult because there's so much that, you know, our district is pretty large, so there's a lot of things that have to go on our agenda. Because, you know, in contrast, I know there's some other school districts who, you know, are smaller, like Santa Cruz City Schools, and I don't think their board meetings go that late. But we're also in a very unique position. So
one of the things that was brought up that you changed, right? I think that's also a leader, right? Someone that changes the game.
Yeah, for future.
And you look at, I'm taking this as a sports, you know, direction, but all these amazing sports figures that have changed the game. You got Steph Curry, you got Michael Jordan, Tom Brady.
Completely.
You know, all these greats that have changed. And like I had mentioned earlier, you made the seat visible.
Yeah.
You've made it to where people pay attention to the student board trustee, and you changed some things. So talk me through, let the people know what it is that you changed, because you came in, you were there, and now you can make motions.
So I would say the first change, or, you know, really important guide that was developed even before the whole motion thing, was the Student Civic Engagement Handbook that I created. And that was part of not only the Seal of Civic Engagement project that I was working on, or, you know, that was the project, but also I was really talking to our CTE coordinator, Julie Edwards, and because I signed up to be part of, when the board decided their committees that they wanted to be on, part of the one that I wanted to be on was the CTE advisory, stakeholder advisory. So I was at those meetings and, you know, was really discussing with Julie, you know, what did I want, you know, to do for this project? Or, you know, I was telling her that we have so many opportunities, but, you know, there's really no path. And it's so difficult to find them because there's a lot. So I took all the information that I was given from those, you know, conversations with her. And that's when I really sat down and developed this handbook. And I mentioned it, I think over the course of like 3 or 4 weekends, I spent a total of like 8 hours just, researching opportunities, but also putting it together. What are some student core values and how do we embody that within this handbook? And then at the very end, that's when I included the home motion thing. So since the board did adopt this on April 16th, now that handbook, which lists all the leadership opportunities within our county or within our community, as well as, Arte del Corazon, I listed that in there too. And that's now going to be on the Seal of Civic Engagement website. So students who want to become civically engaged can now look at that and see all the different opportunities, as well as, how to apply, how to get involved, what they consist of, a brief description. And that was something that was really important, because now, that legacy and that my name will always be on that handbook too.
Oh, yeah.
And that's something that's always going to be there for students as a guide. And the whole motion thing came about because, as I said earlier, during the Student Trustee Academy, I was told when we would kind of practice simulating board meetings that I would be able to make motions. So during my first board meeting, I asked, I think, our board president, I was like, am I able to make a motion? Immediately shut down right away. No,
wow.
We don't do that. No.
Was it no because she or he did not know, or was it you just stated it?
No,
it was not on it.
Yeah, no, because they know that it's never been done before, and that's not in our board bylaws. That's just not one of the student trustees' abilities. But I was just confused and conflicted, because I was told that I was going to be able to, and then when I was doing research, I learned that the Santa Cruz County Office of Education, their board, they allow their student trustees to make motions, and then so many school districts in California do too.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I think it's time to bring this now to PVUSD, because that I understand the whole preferential voting that currently does exist, and that essentially would just allow me to say, oh, I as a student trustee would recommend a yes or no vote, but I don't see that as important as making a motion to move something along. So I remember copying and pasting what their board bylaws say in the Santa Cruz County Office of Ed, and I sent that over to the agenda setting, and it took a while to get on the agenda, but I was constantly reassured, we're going to get this on, on. And, when it finally came about, it was such a historic moment, because now that's something that every student trustee moving forward will be able to do. Yeah. And making a motion is a really big deal, and I've tried to take as much, I've tried to take advantage of it as much as I could during the last 2 meetings that I've had with that being adopted. But that's also such a historic moment. I would say those two, the handbook and the revision of the board bylaw, has been the most important thing throughout my whole term.
You left your mark, man.
Yeah.
You left your mark. Like 10 years, 20 years down the line, it's going to be like Daniel Esqueda. His name's right there.
Yeah.
So how does that feel? Like that's...
I think it's really cool to know that, my contributions to this district are going to be everlasting.
Yeah.
The mark that I've been able to, I guess, stamp on this district and kind of create like this new blueprint or standard has been really, I guess, so important to me, just because it's something I never would have imagined being, a little kid in Camp Wow to now this giant leadership position and getting all this, public attention and having all these, over like 500 emails from my student trustee account and, responding to all these people and getting, so many news articles and meeting so many people, meeting Senator Laird and, being the first student to speak at the State of the District event. So it's just all those things that I've been able to accomplish have just been so important to me, and something that, I constantly reflect on, because it wouldn't have been possible without the, sense of community that I've had since day one.
Yeah. And, I believe it one day. I don't know where you're going to, we'll talk about where you're going and all that in the future, but one day, I could see it, you being back here and leading the board.
Yeah.
Do you think, because that's the step, right? Step forward in the right direction.
Yeah.
And a bit of a, I don't know, it depends on who you ask, controversial, right?
Yeah.
Do you think students should vote on things, or are they're ready to make the next step into voting on topics?
Yeah, I think students 100% should be able to vote in terms of board elections, like their school district, because at the end of the day, those individuals are the ones who are making the decisions for their education.
Yeah.
So every vote and every decision directly impacts those students, and those students are the same ones who are bearing the consequences or, benefits from those votes. So I think that's, for example, and I think Oakland currently does it.
Mm-hmm.
Their students can vote for school board elections, and I think that's something that I would hope would eventually take place within our community. And I think there's already been a proposal submitted to our agenda setting committee about that, because I think the steps for that would be our board would have to approve it, and then that gets sent to the Watsonville City Council. Mm-hmm. And then once that get approved, it's like a whole, process. Maybe the county. Yeah. So, but I really hope one day that can actually happen, because I know the next election for the school board is, in about a year from this November. So, yeah, I mean, who knows by that time if though they would be able to, but I think hopefully in the future, in the near future, students would be able to vote for their trustees.
And now that you've gone through all this, your senior year, right? Yeah. The day this episode comes out, it's gonna be graduation week.
Yeah, graduation week.
Yeah,
it's
so
a big deal.
Congratulations, graduation.
Thank you. Yeah.
What is the one thing? What is one word to describe your experience, and how do you summarize it with all the ups and down?
Yeah, I would say if I were to describe it in one word, it'd be evolution. Okay. It's an evolution of Daniel Esqueda. And I think, from, being a junior rec leader to this position, and now, moving forward to college and all that stuff, the evolution is just continuing. And I think, that's applicable to everyone. Everyone's evolution is continuing throughout their life. And that's something that I always think about is, the person that I am today will only become a better version of myself. And I constantly think to myself, what can I do to become better, and how can I continue to lead with not only integrity, but by example. Yeah. And that's the example that I want to set for everyone, to look up to, I want to be like a leader like this person, or I want to create everlasting change. Mm-hmm. So it's just the evolution throughout this whole process that will only continue.
Yeah. And that's great. I'm just mind blown for how you put that.
Yeah.
And I gotta ask, because I ask everyone, right, that does something. How does Danny relax? How do you when you balance everything that you're doing, and how do you take time for yourself? What is it that you do to self-care yourself through these moments?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think I definitely like to go explore new places, and I'm like a really big food person, so I like trying all different foods.
Yeah.
I also like going to different events. My brother Alex and my dad, we love MMA, so we're always for example, yesterday we were just in Santa Cruz watching MMA fights at the Kaiser Permanente Arena. So I guess always just I like to stay active, but there's also times where I like to just stay at home for a while and kind of decompose and relax and just watch some movies. And that's when I actually take the time to rejuvenate myself and just become, I guess, more grounded to allow me to then push forward even more.
Yeah.
Because everyone needs the relaxation in their life. Yeah. So it's just those moments, but also spending time with friends and family, that also provides a sense of motivation, because they constantly tell me how proud they are of me, but I only want to continue to make them even more proud. Yeah. So that's what I strive for, not only for them, but also for myself, because I have really high expectations and standards.
Yeah. What's your go-to comfort food? Because you say you're a little foodie, you go out there and explore.
Sushi. Yeah, sushi 100%. Shout out to Amura's or the Sushi Garden in Watsonville, because I guess, if there's any one type of food, or, someone could ask me what do you want to get right now? I'd probably be Amura's. I really like sushi. I remember that's where we went for the first time during camp. We went on a lunch.
That's right.
Yeah, we went to Sushi Q. Shout out to Sushi Q too. That was 2019
yeah.
summer. So yeah.
If any of you guys want to throw down some sponsorship.
Yeah, sponsorship.
Money.
Yeah.
Mori's
Yeah.
Mora's and Sushi Q.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely. Those places are really good, but
Yeah.
I also like supporting like local businesses here too.
Yeah.
So I always make an effort to try. There's a lot of new places that are constantly opening up too. So
Yeah.
it's really cool to always try those places.
Yeah, that's why I tell people, hey man, try everything.
Yeah,
All the
definitely.
foods.
Yeah,
And you know what? Like, let's be honest. There's some places that are not as great,
Yeah.
as others. But like,
yeah,
try everything once.
exactly.
Doesn't matter.
No, 100%.
And you're a senior. You're graduating. You're moving on.
Moving on.
And one, what is it that you want to study? And two, I know you were looking for colleges. Last time we spoke, we spoke briefly about where you wanted to go, and you finally came up with the decision of where you're going.
Yep.
Talk me through what it is you want to do.
Yeah, so I think this whole year has only validated my decision, but I've always been interested in like government and like political science, and even during the pandemic, I would watch documentaries just about politics because it's so interesting to me. So that's something that I realized I really wanted to pursue. Just learning about government and everything that it's related to. So I'm gonna be a political science major, and then it was a difficult decision between UC Berkeley or USC, but the University of Southern California. But I ended up my heart really just sided with USC.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the
sunny Southern California.
Sunny Southern California. Go Trojans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. And what made you fall in love with it? Because I know you went down and you visited.
Yeah.
What's that campus like? What's the atmosphere?
Yeah, the campus is beautiful, and they have the networking over there is just unmatched. And I think being in the heart of LA, there's so many different opportunities. The campus is beautiful, and everyone talks about the USC Village and so many food places, and it's just beautiful. And one thing that really kind of, I guess, incentivized me to go there was they have something called a progressive degree program, which allows undergraduates to begin working on their master's.
Oh, wow.
So, for example, during my junior year, I would apply for that, and soon after applying, I would begin to work on my master's, and that's something that was really cool because a lot of schools don't do that. And I want to get my master's in public administration because I want to continue working. My dream goal, for those who don't know, would be to become a city manager. So public administration is the perfect pathway to that. And USC has a really good public administration program, and essentially I would be able to graduate with my master's a year after I graduate with my bachelor's.
Oh, wow.
So it's you could complete it in 5 years, but I'm looking to even complete it sooner than that. I'm already trying to take as many general ed courses through Cabrillo to even progress that as fast as I can. Yeah, because I'm motivated to continue my education, but also begin leading a city, because that would be the ultimate goal. Is now I'm not working. I wouldn't be working with the school district, but I would almost be like I would basically be like the superintendent, but of the city. So I'm taking the reins of the city and leading it and guiding it. Yeah.
Come back in the future, be City of Watsonville.
City of Watsonville city manager. Yeah. No, definitely that would be.
Yeah.
I definitely want to stay local to for sure California, because I can't imagine myself leaving California, but I definitely love the Bay Area, Central Coast. So any opportunity that presents itself, and I envision myself constantly like moving to once I feel like I would leave the city in a good position, and I be able to do everything I can and guide it into a good direction. Then I think I would take on another opportunity that would present itself, and continue to just showcase this leadership that would help improve the direction of all employees and the city as a whole. Yeah,
and that's great because like in LA, nothing against the Bay Area, nothing against Berkeley, but I think like Los Angeles and just that whole area, there's so much opportunities.
Oh yeah,
so much networking, so much variety of food.
I mean, definitely. Yeah, that's what I look forward to too.
So that's going to be a good opportunity just to pick up and learn.
No, yeah, and I think for that master's program too, you have to do like an internship, and a lot of internships, especially in government, end up taking you on. So that's my goal, is to I really want to show everyone, especially those who I haven't met, and future students, professors, and potentially even, wherever I work, but just the value of leadership that I've been able to bring to our community.
Yeah.
But I hope to only improve and transform moving forward, as I envision myself stepping into a even bigger leadership role, because the superintendent or city manager is the biggest role that you're talking about, in terms of a school district or a city as a whole. So that's what I just really want to continue to hone in on, is those that leadership skill, which there's always improvement, and with that education that's going to come from USC, I'm only going to learn so much more from the variety of perspectives, and also just the networking in Los Angeles. So and then I mentioned it during the board meeting too, but USC also has this is what was also a big factor too, but they have a first semester in DC program.
Ooh.
So this fall I'll be living in Washington DC.
Oh wow.
And there's a total, I think it's limited to 50 participants, but they're all taking the same 4 classes, which are really interesting. One of them, which I'm looking forward to the most, is called Foundations in Leadership. Really interesting. So, I'll be living, I think it's like a mile away from the White House, constantly hearing from guest speakers like Congress people, and also their speakers, and all these people that live in Washington, D.C. And I've never been to Washington, D.C., but I've heard how beautiful and amazing it is. So that's going to be a whole new experience, and all those perspectives that I'll be able to take from there, that's going to, help me as I move to LA in the spring, because it won't be until the spring. But it's going to be a really cool experience.
Dude,
and that's what,
that's awesome. Props to you, bro.
No, thank you for that. And I told everyone during the board meeting too, but all the lessons that I've learned from this community is what I, hope to bring to Washington, D.C., because, in our small town and community, a lot of the perspectives and, experiences aren't shared. But, at that federal level, I'll be able to, express our values and our stories and what makes us so important and special. And that's something that I look forward to, because every experience and every story deserves to be heard and shared. And that's why I'll be able to advocate not only for PVUSD, because my advocacy for them doesn't end here as my term ends, but it's only going to continue for Watsonville and PVUSD and our whole county in Washington, D.C., and the largest, our nation's capital. So
let them know what Watsonville
exactly, 100%. That's what I look forward to doing.
Dude, that is awesome. I'm proud of you. I mean, I know you're hearing it a lot from everyone, but I am proud of you. I mean, from the Danny that I knew as a kid to now.
Thank you.
I'm happy, man. I'm happy for you, and everything that's coming your way. Just work hard.
Thank you.
And you're gonna face some things. You're gonna go through some struggles. I mean, I think whatever you kind of faced right now is preparing you for what's to come. And you could always, like I said, use me as a resource. I mean, you have a bunch of people that are rooting for you and supporting you. But that's awesome. Washington, D.C.
And it's really amazing too, because the apartments too that they place students in are beautiful, and just the building, it's called like USC's DC Capital Campus, and it just opened in 2023.
Oh, okay.
Like, it's really new. And I think especially the lessons that I learned this year from our board too, because I know sometimes it can get controversial and chaotic, but that's been really helpful, because as a city manager, you're working with the city council, so that's your board. And this has really shown me a lot how to, work through, problem solving and any issue that may arise, how to, face it head on. And, that's going to be really important when I'm dealing with the city council as a city manager.
And you know what, the one thing that I tell people, and I give you advice, the best way to learn, obviously we have to make our own mistakes to learn, right? And life is going to teach us that, and life is going to take us through that journey. But always pay attention to others. Right? Because you're going to see what to do and what not to do.
Exactly.
Right? And I think you saw that firsthand in this term, right? Your senior year, is you saw how you should do things and how you should not. And I think you should really take that going forward, right? Pay attention to all those small little details, and you're going to learn. You're going to learn.
Definitely. There's so much that has been learned and still needs to be learned. And that's why I look forward to college, you know, because the people that I'll be meeting, not only from around our country, but, you know, throughout the whole world. And that's what I really value the most is diversity, and to be able to be exposed to that, which we are in our own community, but, you know, meeting people from all over the world and all these different professors that all offer these valuable perspectives that I'll be able to take in and work with as I continue to evolve and, you know, as a leader is something that just continues to excite me on a daily basis as I look forward to, you know, August, you know, moving on August 19th, you know, leaving to Washington, D.C. and, you know, having that one-way ticket booked and, you know, it's a really cool thing.
Yeah. You know, when you come back in spring for your second semester, your third semester, kick down some of those USC Trojan tickets for football.
USC Trojan tickets. No, I know that's what everyone keeps telling us. You know, you have to go to one of those games, and you know, which I like going to our football games. You know, here, but I heard you know those are a different level. So I'm ready.
You saw the Coliseum? Have you seen it?
The USC one?
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't seen. Yeah, I only saw like their campus because that's what I was looking forward to.
Yeah. But I drove by. Actually, I was in LA during spring break, and I was out there and went to a museum there. But that thing is huge.
Oh yeah, I'm excited to see it. But
so
I gotta pass on those football tickets.
Yeah,
you know, Watsonville can help represent USC.
There you go. Yeah. There you go. No, that's great, Danny. And as we wrap it up, you know, I always tell people, right? What is your words of wisdom? What do you pass on? Yeah. What is it that you advise, not just the younger generation coming up, right, following in your footsteps, but even adults, right? I am a true believer that it doesn't matter what age you are, you could always learn something from someone from infant to the old.
Yeah.
What is it that you pass on?
I would just continue to advise everyone that your growth is only going to continue. And I know that's a very, I guess, generic statement because everyone always does continue to grow. But you never know your true purpose until you continue to discover things that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
And everyone will soon realize, I know there's a lot of people who, you know, may find themselves in the state of, you know, well, what is my purpose? Or I'm in a really difficult position where I just don't know what to do. But I think throughout your life and as you know continue this journey, you'll realize that, you know, that purpose and that path has already been laid out for you, and it's now just on you to really value and seek the opportunities that will guide you down that path to that purpose. And that's been something that I've learned throughout this year is, you know, from, you know, the little Danny from freshman year who had no clue what he would be doing or would never even think about attending you know, a school with a 10% acceptance rate, you know, has now been guided down this path to, you know, his future and what he envisions for himself, just because of the opportunities that presented themselves and, you know, the determination and motivation that, you know, he stuck with throughout this journey. So I think really just valuing and taking advantage of everything. I know some people may have this like reluctance to put themselves out there, you know, just really take advantage of opportunities. But I think, you know, just taking that one step forward can put you in a whole new direction that you would have never envisioned for yourself.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. I can't express how much I'm happy. It makes me happy and proud, you know. And this week too, like I said, leading up to graduation, what an accomplishment.
No, yeah, it's
what a journey.
Yeah, it's like the end of a chapter, but, you know, the story continues.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's definitely a bittersweet moment, but I know that, like I said during the board meeting, is like my heart always like remains with this community. So it's always going to be tied, you know, here, and I'm always representing this community wherever I go.
Yeah.
So definitely bittersweet, but, you know, it's like a little charm that always, you know, sticks by me with my heart wherever I go. So, you know, always representing, and we'll always have, you know, unlimited, you know, love for gratitude for everything that this community and, you know, the individuals here have shown me.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's great. Well, Danny, I wish you luck.
Thank Thank you.
I thank you for your service as a student board trustee. The mark that you left, are some pretty big shoes to fill.
Yeah, thank you.
And what you've accomplished, and I wish you luck on your next adventure, and we'll get you back on here in a couple years.
Yeah,
exactly. See where you've been or what you've done.
Yeah.
Well, good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck,
you.
and congratulations on graduating.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Yeah, guys. Danny Esqueda, USC Trojan.
Yep.
Student board trustee. Left his mark at PVUSD. Thanks again, Danny. Guys, thank you. This is season 2 finale
Thank you,
of Ed Local Podcast 831. Stay tuned for the summer for season 3. I'll catch you guys later. Thanks, Danny. God bless y'all.